Matt, what a joy to be on your show, and thanks for having me on.
Hey, listen, watched you for years. I've read the books. I love the new book. It's all about political correctness. You break it down from your perspective, but who knows better than you how political correctness can kind of bite you in the fanny. But I got to tell you, from where I sit, Juan, I think it turned out okay for you. You know, in the long run, things happen for a reason, and it's been okay, hasn't it, once you left NPR?
Well, yes. I mean, in fact, Fox took care of all the financial loss that I suffered, and I have a bigger role at Fox. But I must tell you, what happened, Matt, emotionally, and I think that's also part of who we are as human beings. We're emotional creatures as well. It still stings that when someone says you're a bigot, and, you know, the boss of the company of NPR then went out in public in front of microphones and TV cameras and said whatever Juan says should be between him and his psychiatrist.
Right.
Maybe it's coming from his publicist, as if I can't speak for myself. I'm so infantile and stupid. And to be, you know, tarnished in that way, I remember going through a period where I thought, you know, no one's going to hire me. No one's going to want anything to do with me because, you know, NPR is a much-loved brand. They got the big microphone in every town, and
sure,
they're going after me.
Right. But it didn't turn out that way at all. As a matter of fact, I think your stock went up. And in this book, you address those kinds of issues. For instance, you talk about Bill Maher and what he said on Politically Incorrect about the terrorists flying planes into buildings. He said they were not cowards because they actually stayed on the airplanes. And although you've explained in your book that he was actually kind of siding with his conservative guests there, this came back just to bite him in the butt.
Well, yeah, because I think that he's wrong to say that in the sense that, you know, the idea that you would fly a plane into a building and kill innocent people and civilians, I don't see that as bravery.
Right.
But he was talking about it in the sense that they stayed on the plane. But what happened was advertisers then, and I think the public backlash, and I think I was part of it, I was offended by the statement, I think the public advertisers then said, we don't want to be associated with his show. That's, I guess, the marketplace can decide, but nonetheless, it's interesting, as you point out, and, you know, for me, just fascinating that he was actually talking with a conservative guest on the show who had said much the same thing.
But when Bill Maher comes back and says what he says,
exactly right. That's the point, Matt.
And then all of a sudden it becomes an issue of political correctness. All right, Juan, I'm going to take a quick break here, and when I come back, I want to ask you about conversations that you had with George W. Bush privately, and also with President Barack Obama privately. And what's interesting, and you lay this out in your book, is these conversations privately, off the record, were very similar, and it all had to do with political correctness. Juan Williams will join us back here at Houston's Morning News, KTRH, in just a moment.
I appreciate that very much. That's a high compliment.
It truly is. You know, sometimes you get bogged down with books, and when people write books, you think, oh, God, I got to slog through this thing. But no, very easy read. You were pulled aside by George W. Bush. He pulled on your arm outside of the Oval Office and talked about your book, Enough. There were things in that book that he agreed with that you wrote when it had to do with underprivileged kids, and he said to you, "I can't recommend your book or talk about your book in public," but he wanted you to know that he agreed with much of what you wrote.
Right, and here's the thing, Matt. He had written me a letter saying, "What a fabulous book! Thank you for writing it," and you know, the book was about how there's so much out-of-wedlock birth going on now, especially in the black community, 70% of children born to single moms. But it's something that's afflicting all of us. You know, it's now about close to a third of the white children, half of the Hispanic kids. It's leading to family breakdown. Mm-hmm. It has a direct tie in terms of the failure in schools. You know, 50% of the minority kids not graduating from high school. It's crazy. Or you stop and think about the link to crime. Who's in jail in this country? Most often, they're kids that come from these broken families. President Bush said to me, he said, look, I love the book. I think it's an important message, but if I say anything about it as a conservative Republican, then people on the other side, the people who would benefit most from this message, people who are involved with charities, people who are involved in doing work with these kids, with these families, they'd ignore it. They'd say, oh, because President Bush endorses
right.
it must be some crazy conservative mess. He said, it's just, I think I'm helping you by keeping silent.
And Juan, you had the same kind of discussion with President Obama when he came out and he said that he would like to see more black fathers get involved with their families, so on and so forth. Tremendous pushback from Jesse Jackson, and you laid all that out, and what Jesse Jackson said about him publicly and then under his breath. You got the same kind of wink and nod from President Obama, who said the same thing, and he was up against the same kind of issues.
Right. You know, when you just told that story, you were quite courteous.
Yes.
But the fact is, Jesse Jackson suggested that President Obama was talking down to black people by simply saying that black men needed to do a better job of being good fathers to their children. In fact, Jackson went so far as to suggest that then candidate Obama be castrated for having said that in public. It's unbelievable. You might think he's making this up, but no, that's exactly what happened.
No, and I remember that. Juan Williams joining us here this morning. Juan, the book, Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate. I love it. I encourage everyone to pick it up. It is an easy read. It's a great read. And I got to be honest with you, although you and I sometimes disagree on politics, I always enjoy everything that you have to say, and I continue to learn an awful lot from you, my friend.
Matt, that's why I listen to your show. When I'm in Houston, I think you're the kind of guy, you have a strong point of view, but you don't silence the other side, and you want to hear what the other side is saying so you can take them on. And if I'm listening to the show, I get the whole set of facts. I'm not just getting one part of the story, and I appreciate it. Thank you,
Juan.